Dead End Deaf Child is with us here today. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good, yeah.
Great. Now, you've got a new project out at the moment, which is called Haunted. Can you just describe the basic idea of that project, first of all?
I was kind of like trying to work towards a certain direction with music production. And one of the things I always try to do basically with like synths and stuff, the type sounds that I wanted. It took me a long time to get there. I heard other artists doing it that I liked. I couldn't really get there. But even by the time I started to get there and kind of like take this neural funk type synth sound to other type places, like more trap style EDM and breaks and even reggaeton type drum sequencing.
Yeah.
When I got there, I kind of discarded my old musical identity and left it behind and started just working on this new project in this new type of aesthetic, which is kind of like a horror pop type vibe. I experiment with a lot of other genres within EDM, but I kind of like to have this, scary type, but also melodic type thing going on. So
Yeah.
I think that this project is kind of just all of those things. Once I abandoned my old aesthetic and kind of went in this direction, was able to create the sound that I wanted. That kind of led to this project.
Yeah. And is it an album then?
Yeah, basically. And I think what's going to happen is it might be more than that. I always kind of give away all my music for free, so I have it on my YouTube with no advertisements or anything. I
Yeah.
could put it on a distributor to put it onto iTunes and all that type of stuff. So I think
Yeah.
once it's finally completed, which should be sometime soon, I'm going to take the majority of the good stuff, maybe send it to a distributor, but always leave the other stuff out there, even that stuff, so people could view it for free if they want. So this project basically is coming to completion of that. I might, some of the stuff that makes it onto the actual marketed project, it might not be everything, but a lot of it might get cut, but oh well.
Yeah. And how come you're giving it away for free then? Because surely advertising on YouTube is maybe a very easy way to make money from your music.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I think even if I was like, obviously I'm still trying to get my music out there. Now that I'm at the level that I think that I produce at a type quality that people would want to listen to it. And I know how music theory works now, which I didn't when I first started many years ago. I feel like, if I was at a level where I had, big shows I was doing and stuff like that, I would still give my music away for free to people that want to listen to it. I always
Yeah.
like the type of business model that people like Radiohead and Nine Inch Nails had tried years ago, of putting stuff out there for free, but then taking also donations or people wanting, if they want to buy a physical copy, being able to provide something like that with extra value, like stuff that's in it, rather than kind of the way the music industry works these days, where you give your money to iTunes or whatever, the artist gets a little piece of it, and then that's it. I feel like if you do want to do business with the artist, you could do business with them directly, and I
Yeah.
would maybe make myself available like that. But I also think that if people want to listen to your music and you like to make music, you should make it available for them at least for free.
Yeah. It's great that there's no middleman in that way.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. So, how did you first get inspired to do this particular project, Haunted?
I think I started to work on a video, and I actually had kind of done the song, and I was, in the end phases of my last artist identity. And I can tell you the actual song right now if you want. But when I made the song, I was like, this is a little bit different than some of the stuff I've been working on previously. It doesn't really fit the same category. I felt like it was a major departure from the stuff I had been doing, not
Yeah.
just on like a skill level. Like I, become a little bit more skilled during the process. Like always, I had kind of reached another plateau, but also just the aesthetic of the track, the video and everything was much different than what I had been working on previously. And I think that kind of pushed me in that direction. And I just kind of tried to harp at it more. And I said, okay, well, this is the process, the formula I used to get that. Let me just try to just go through it in a whole bunch of different variations. And I got a lot of good stuff out of it. And I
Yeah.
kept being surprised that it was going that well. That song's called See Tomorrow, which I think I put a video of that on YouTube on July 9th, 2020. So it's been almost a year now that I've been working on this project. It's been about a month away from a year that I've been working on it.
Wow, that's incredible. So, I take it you've got a lot of songs that have taken a lot of time to finish.
Yeah, I mean, actually, to be honest, one song that I think I would say took me the longest to finish technically is I did a Nobuo Uematsu. I don't know if you've played Final Fantasy or familiar with the series. They made a song called Home Sweet Home that was on Super Nintendo Final Fantasy V. So now that song, I was originally exposed to it playing the games growing up, but I would say about, I don't know, almost 20 years ago when I started producing music, I tried to like remix it. And I had an orchestral album when I tried to resample of these people. Actually, they're Finnish, they're a Sami folk group, right, that sing it called Angelique. And they did this in 1993. Nobuo Uematsu released an album over there called Dear Friends. It was one of the remixes they did. So the Finnish singing of the song, they do it in basically Sami and English, but the English one is the one I used for the song that I did. And even back then, when I tried to resample it, make a song, it sucked 20 years ago. So I've been kind of like toying with the idea ever since. And a while back, I released that on May 16th. I went back into that project and I said, well, let me now take the knowledge I have and try to redo this and do it properly. So then I released that song, Home Sweet Home. And I was looking for a video to use for it. I tried to look in the public domain of stuff that's available out there. And it just so happened I was looking through old cartoons. I seen this Betty Boop. And there's this weird scene towards the end because she runs away from home where this like wind tears away this thing that says Home Sweet Home. It's basically like she tries to run away from home, but the world is really terrible. So she comes back. Unfortunately, the song, the Nobuo Uematsu song and the Dear Friends version has a very kind of like Home Sweet Home, like you're on a very long journey and you want to get back to home feeling. So it kind of goes together. And I was very like, I guess, amazed at the synchronicity between those things randomly,
And the name of your album, Haunted, why is it called that? Is that the theme of the album?
Well, it's kind of funny because I feel like all the stuff I do kind of has like a haunted type vibe to it. But, I originally was like trying to think of a way to describe the type of music I was making at the time. Like, how do I sum up this like very niche type genre I've drawn myself toward that I've been wanting to make for a long time? It's kind of like trap EDM music, but it's like haunted. It's like haunted trap house music. So I also have a lot of house elements. So originally it was haunted trap house. And I said, I don't want to call my album haunted trap house. It doesn't sound, people might get their own idea. So I kind of left it with the haunted and kind of the vibe elements of it, and then chopped off the other part.
Yeah. And do you feel it has particular lyrical style in it?
Well, I mean, I use a lot of different stuff. I have some tracks that I haven't done yet, but like there's a track, there's a rapper from London named Razor, right? That I use some of his material on a track that's pretty good. So there's rap elements to it. There's also a song I have on there called Let Go that has almost more of a country type vibe to it. Some of it like with the guitar and the female vocals. It's only a song that really has this like, then I have another one called Alone that almost has like punk rock type female vocals over it. So, I kind of try to go into a bunch of different areas of stuff like that. I have another song that on there that I kind of like is fairly decent called Remedy that has almost R&B type vocals over it. So it goes from everything that you could imagine, pop type, EDM, R&B, hip hop, punk rock, everything you could imagine at some point,
Yeah. So did you grow up then listening to a variety of different genres then?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to a lot of music growing up, especially because my parents, I'm from the United States and Florida. My parents, they started to go to like Amsterdam and stuff multiple times a year in the mid 90s, and they brought a lot of crazy music back with them, so I got into big beat and stuff then. So I always was kind of drawn to EDM. But, over here, obviously, breaks and stuff are really big where I'm from. Florida is kind of well known for breaks around the world. So I got exposed to all that type of stuff with EDM, but also like all kinds of regular genres of music too, I pretty much listen to everything. That's why when I start making something, I don't really discriminate against what direction the track wants to go. I'm like, okay, let's go this direction. And I guess that's what we're doing today.
Yeah. And when you first started making music, was there a particular song or genre that got you into it? Or were you just thinking you wanted to make music in general?
Yeah, I think I always was drawn my whole life towards making music somewhere. I started out with like bass guitar and stuff like that, playing a bunch of different instruments and stuff. But I just always was drawn towards even like rap type stuff, engineered people, every type of thing. I've been a DJ for a long time, So, DJing stuff especially, I had to get into a bunch of other, genres of music. And I always wanted to make music, a particular type of music. And I think even when I really started producing music, I knew what I wanted it to sound like in my head, but I hadn't really heard anybody else make those type sounds back then. I think from the first exposure, I got exposed to sounds like that was Pendulum. I think they're from like New Zealand or something. So the first time that was in the mid 2000s when I first really heard people doing those type of, filters and stuff over synths to make those like nasty type grimy sounds, and I heard some of it in the beginnings of dubstep, around about over 10 years ago now.
Wow.
And then definitely with neurofunk, like Tone Sound and stuff, Noise, those are the type of artists that I heard where I was like, that is a sound that I want to make. Like these guys are they're professionals, the whole structuring and layering. I would say when I was younger, I used to be really impressed by Trent Reznor's Nine Inch Nails, to do kind of very in-depth productions where you could listen to a song multiple times and still hear other things that you weren't really hearing the time before because there's so much stuff going on, like the layers of stuff always impressed me. And that made me want to make my own stuff. So I was like, I want to make some layers of music like this,
Yeah. And was there a particular moment when you were really young that you thought, maybe there's something in music that I want to do?
Yeah, I think always, like somehow when I was a kid, like I'm going to give you an example. And there was stuff even before this. When I was in elementary school, probably like second grade, there was a thing. We all went to the music room to do chorus. And, nobody wanted to go up. And I just like went up there. I'm like, okay, I did not know the song that this lady was about to play on the piano next to me. I'm supposed to sing along to see if I can get in chorus. But for some reason, I really wanted to get into chorus. And I sang this song I did not know perfect and got into chorus. And it was the first person. Now, like, even for that thing, I was like, somehow I always knew that like I was drawn to music. There's some kind of invisible thread that's connected me to music in my whole life, not just as a fan of other people's music, although that's a big part of it, but also with, music creation. Like music is probably the most major part of my life, my whole life. I mean, there's a lot of other major parts also, but at least when it comes to like personal pursuits, I got into a lot of other things, but music has always kind of been like my comfort zone where, and when everything else is going terrible, like, okay, well, at least I still got music,
Yeah, it's good to have that. And is music what you do full time, or do you have other jobs that help you pay the bills?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I basically manage a strip club in Florida, and that takes up a lot of my time. That's the majority of my time. Obviously, I have my wife and everything, and my son. They get some time too. But my job, I'll say, takes up sometimes, 60 hours a week of managing strip club. You think it sounds very fun and easy. It's not. It's difficult, so, but it does pay the bills. I've gotten some money from music before. I mean, especially because even managing strip clubs, I got to that point by DJing. I DJed strip clubs for a long time. I used to DJ normal parties and raves and venues, and we have an area over here called Ybor by Tampa that's well known for clubs. And I would like do shows for open bar. I would basically like me and my homeboys would throw a rave and we would break even at the end or lose a little bit of money. I didn't know I could just go to the strip club and DJ and get cash every day, and it's great, So that I was able to catapult that into management though. So in some way, it's still very much connected to music. Music is a big thing connected to that industry, even controlling the crowds and like the type of it's very complex the way that it interacts with it, but it's still like somehow a music job,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people might poo-poo managing a strip club as a silly little job, but really it's like managing anything. There's a lot of work in it still.
Another business, really.
Yeah,
it's a service industry, hospitality. Really, that's it. It's they're basically just glorified type bars,
Yeah.
I mean, there's girls that go dance around half naked, but it's like a lot of people that go there, they're not really there for that, It's a whole different cultural type thing, I guess.
Yeah. So how did you come up with your actual name then, Dead End Deaf Child?
So as you see behind me, I got these signs, Dead End Deaf Child, right? So I grew up on a street when I was younger, and it was a dead end, and there was a deaf child on there. The deaf child wasn't me; it was my friend's brother. But I used to see that sign, and I used to make music even for a long time now, and I used to be like, that really describes me because my life is like a dead end, and I'm like deaf child. I can't probably even hear. My music is terrible. And I was like, that really describes me. And I used to think this for years, and I used another artist name and stuff for a long time. But I always used to, even when I was trying to tell people about the street I grew up on over there, I'll say, well, if you ever know that area, there's that street that has a sign that says Dead End Deaf Child. So I actually went back, not too long ago, and I said, well, I'm starting using this artist name now. Let me go take a picture of this sign. Well, my friend's brother that was deaf has grown up, so the deaf child part was gone. And there's not very many places where it's exactly like this sign over for this sign, and dead end, death child. Like, there's a whole bunch of different dead end signs and death child signs and variations of them. And I couldn't find another one like that to even take a picture of. So luckily, my wife got me these signs. I don't know how she got them. I told her I was going to pay somebody maybe to go take them. I think that's illegal.
Yeah, I think so. Although, wasn't there a Simpsons episode about how you could steal a street sign if it had your name on it?
Oh yeah, I think so. That's correct. Yeah. So I think I got to let them go, man.
Yeah. So you also spent a little while in prison for importing ecstasy from China. So what's the full story there?
So now this is the thing. I didn't even have MDMA. I had something called MDMC or bk-MDMA, also known as methylone or methyl one. I had a website. I was selling it and stuff. I didn't think it was illegal. I was very big into research chemicals and stuff. I thought as long as you were not selling it for human consumption and the people agreed to that you were cool. Well, that wasn't the case. So when I was importing these chemicals, I was getting them from China, obviously. Yeah. And, I had a pretty big business of doing this on a regular, but I also dealt with some people I knew. And one of the people I knew in real life, they set me up. So 10 days before the United States made MDMC Emergency Schedule 1, they indicted me for importing it from China, but they charged me under an old law from the 1980s called the Controlled Substances Analogs Enforcement Act. And they said that since it was so similar to MDMA, they actually charged me with MDMA. So my argument was, well, if it was already Schedule 1 under this old Analogs Act, then why'd you have to make it Emergency Schedule 1 10 days after you indicted me? Yeah. And that didn't get me anywhere. I still sat in prison for like almost 7 years, federal prison in the United States. I went all over. I finally got to see the country, but it was from behind bars. It was terrible.
Yeah. What's it actually like to be in prison then? Is it as miserable as it looks?
Well, I mean, obviously the United States prisons are terrible, especially state prisons. They have different levels. You have state prisons, which are, their local municipalities and whatever, their prisons. Then you have federal prison, like where I went, which is like, the United States government. So you go to court, it's not you versus the state of whatever, it's you versus the United States government. So when you go to federal prison, they can send you anywhere. Federal prison has a few tiers. They have camps, which you could basically just walk off for very low level offenders. They have low, which have fences and stuff around them. They're fairly nice. And the camps are very nice. Then they have mediums where we start to get to bad prisons. That's where I was at. I only started in medium. Then I ended up going to a USP, which is a level above that. USP is like very bad. It was one of the worst prisons in the country, a place called USP McCreary. And basically it's up in the mountains of Kentucky. It's terrible. So anyway, there is one step higher than a USP, a federal penitentiary, and that's an ADX. Like underground in Colorado, a place where they send a Unabomber, that you do get your own single cell there. But that's all you don't get out of there. You can't just go to ADX, no matter how bad you are. You can start killing people in prison. They're still going to keep you in a USP, a penitentiary. So it's very hard to get to ADX. Only it's a very small group of people there. I only did time in mediums and penitentiaries. So that was terrible. I mean, it is as bad as they make it seem, I guess you could say, maybe even worse sometimes. But I would say overall, that life is what you make it, even in there. So that it wasn't really that bad. I made it through. I lived. So.
Yes, that's true, and it could have been a lot worse because there's prisons in Arizona where it's in the heat all day and it's outside and you have to do a lot of work.
The feds all at least have air conditioning and stuff. They say the Fed is like club fed, and they used to be really nice, 20 years ago. By the time I got there, they were ruined because they said they passed this thing called the Anti-Gang Act, and they indicted basically every type gang member they could find, even for not federal crimes, and they flooded the federal prison system with these people. So when they did that, basically what ended up happening is the federal prison system went to shit. The food became terrible. You don't really get supplies and stuff like that. Like in a federal prison in the United States, if you work all month right now, you get paid $5.25, not per hour, but for the month. That's like almost every job in there. There is maybe 20% of jobs where you could make up to $100 a month, but most every job in there is $5.25. That's like a bar or so and some shampoo and conditioner.
Wow.
Unless you're people on the street sending you money, you're pretty much fucked in there. I had my hustle though. I type and stuff like that. I would type on an old school typewriter, like Congress Thompson there doing legal work and everything, for people. Gambling tickets, whatever,
Yeah, I guess the value of the dollar is very high in prisons.
Well, you don't get dollars in there. They use stamps as dollars. So every you have dollar stamp, they're really they're not even worth a dollar. They're technically only worth 90 cents. And then you have like these little 50-cent stamps. So you go to somebody like, basically if you have a book of stamps on most compounds, that's like about $20. You have of spending money. So you just have stamps on you all the time instead of money. Like people find the currency any type way, even if it's like an online game, Stone Jordan and Diablo 2, they find some kind of currency to make it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, when you're not making music and committing crimes, what do you like to get up to in your spare time?
I mean, pretty much it's music, but I also do like programming and stuff like that. I spend a lot of time with my wife and my son, and also her daughter and everything too. So, I spend time with the family mostly. In my free time, I like to watch movies and stuff like that. But I also like to program. I've always been fascinated by open source stuff and everything. I do all kinds of different projects. One of the projects I have right now is free. It doesn't have any type of advertisements or anything like that. But I have something called triumph.xyz. It's a website, but it basically gives you free tarot card readings. On my mom's side of the family, people, they read normal playing cards as tarot cards, which I guess playing cards were the original divination tarot cards. Tarot cards were built on top of playing cards. So I learned how to read these normal playing cards as tarot cards when I was in prison. But when I got out, after practicing a lot, I said, why don't I program it and make a little like website to do it? So I had a few different iterations of it. And it goes through like the whole thing. So it's past, present, future, but it's all mathematical. I basically, I could probably make the code open source. I believe it, if anybody wants, I'd send them open source. But, it's all this mathematically, logically based way to do a tarot reading. So I thought about maybe selling the software or something like that. But that's type stuff I used to do a lot of proprietary software for companies like CRUD systems, create, read, update, delete, those type things. So, any type of interactive database stuff is stuff what I used to do before. Something like this is a very easy side project for me. I was in IT for most of my life before the strip club stuff. And before prison, I did IT for a while. And I've always just kind of developed software. I know about a dozen different languages. I'm full stack. I was a full stack developer before I ever heard that term or knew what it was. I always, like, from the time I was a young teenager, was into PHP and stuff like that. I love web programming mainly, anything with SQL and stuff like that. Love it. I don't know why I have such a passion for it, but it's almost on par with music. It's hard to say which one I really like more,
Yeah. Well, do you have any more songs on the way that we're able to look forward to as well then?
Yeah, I mean, I always am doing new stuff. Sometimes it might take me 2 weeks to do a song in a video, but I'll say more commonly, it's more about once a week, I'll go through different projects and stuff, and then something will ripen during that time. I have one I've been working on right now. I feel like even, the song I just did, Wake Up, when I sang for this thing, I feel like that is another like kind of juncture. So like the same like kind of upgrade that got me to become this artist about a year ago. I feel like now, a year in, I might be able to start working on the next project. So I'm going to slowly be doing that while I wrap up the previous project, patch it up, polish it up, finalize it. And, the other project is already kind of in the works. And I think Wake Up is kind of the first song. Maybe it'll be the last song of this project because it'll kind of lead into this other type's style, where it's still me as an artist making that type of music, but it's kind of metamorphosed a little bit over a year,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in the meantime, where are we able to check out all the music that you have released and also keep up to date with you on the socials and stuff?
I have a Twitter, but I barely use it. I would say I have deadenddeafchild.com, all one word, dead and deaf child. That will just always link to my latest video, whatever I've uploaded to YouTube, which is if you ever want to see or listen to any of my music for free, it's all on YouTube. I have a channel in there called Vulture Media, like VOLTCHURE Media. But if you look up Dead End Deaf Child, it's two different words. So Dead End is one word, Deaf Child is the second word. You can usually find me on there. I have a playlist on there called Haunted of all my new stuff. So, basically, whenever I release a new video, the first place it goes is to YouTube, obviously. Then I eventually will have stuff on all the other platforms and everything too. If anybody is ever interested in actually like my music, I always have like projects available if they want to look at them, stuff like that, or whatever. I'm always available for talking about other people who make similar music. They want to bounce tracks off me, collaborate, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been great to have you on.
Yeah, definitely.